New census figures show poverty is on the rise here in Louisiana, up more than 3% for children statewide from 2009 to 2010. With poverty, often there is hunger. This week in Louisiana, agriculture correspondent Sue Lincoln now shows us how schools across Louisiana are using agriculture to teach some students how to grow their own food.
This isn't recess, it's class time. These students are working in their school garden, learning about growing food they will ultimately harvest and eat. Nearly 200 Louisiana schools have started gardens and, if you'll pardon the pun, the movement is growing. State Agriculture Commissioner Mike Strain says they're breaking ground on what may soon become a necessity.
That food costs are now the highest they've been and growing since the post-war era, World War II. Also, the fact that we have more Americans than ever in the history of this country now that are beginning to need food assistance.
Dr. Kiki Fontenot, LSU AgCenter school garden specialist, says the fruits and vegetables kids are producing from these gardens are helping schools with their food costs.
Some schools, like Jesus the Good Shepherd, which is in Monroe, their cafeteria staff has really gotten on board, and they take a lot of the school garden produce and cook it even in the cooked foods, like they might add tomatoes to the lasagna that were grown by the students and that kind of thing.
School gardens are about more than just economics and giving kids a dose of vitamin D from the sun. Carolyn Murphy, fourth grade teacher at St. Aloysius School in Baton Rouge, says it's about teaching practical science.
They're not only learning how a plant grows, what makes a plant grow, the stages of plant growth, but they're also learning how to prepare the foods, how to take care of the plants.
It's not just science either. At University Terrace School, Master Gardener Betty Hubbs gives third graders a vocabulary and spelling lesson.
And there was a big word that starts with a P in addition to place. Very good, very good. Jalen, can you spell that word?
It's reading.
And then they have to water it.
And arithmetic.
We need 4, so you need to make 3. How many more? 1, 2, 3.
School gardens aren't just sprouting at urban schools. Dr. Fontenot says rural parishes like LaSalle, Pointe Coupee, and Terrebonne have some of the largest concentrations of school gardens.
The rural school gardens tend to be a little bit larger, and they have, I think, a little bit more of the community involvement in them. There's someone's grandfather or master gardeners are actively involved in the rural parishes helping the school gardens out, whereas in the urban areas, it seems more that it's the teachers at the school pushing the initiative.
She says interest in starting new school gardens seems to bloom in the spring.
Some of the vegetables that are more appealing to the youth are grown in the spring versus the fall crops, which are broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts and things that might not at first sound so good to them.
Call it the ick factor.
We have never had a problem with the ick factor. Many of the students have started home gardens, which we're very excited about. They've been very willing to try new and different foods, things that they've never eaten before, because they grew the food themselves, so they had an investment in what they were getting ready to eat.
These vegetable plots may not look like much right now, but Fontenot says Louisiana's mild winters make this the best time for planting school gardens, and fall crops are a better fit with the school year.
And they can actually harvest them before school lets out for Christmas break, whereas the spring season, you generally plant those around March 15th. And then by the time you can harvest a lot of that, especially tomatoes and bell peppers, they've let out from schools.
And the LSU AgCenter has free seeds available now for school gardens, cabbage, lettuce, and carrots.
Any school is certainly, able to contact us and we'll help them out. We don't have any restrictions with people we can work with, so we can work with private, public, homeschool, any age.
Fontenot adds they can steer school gardeners to some startup funding sources, plus they publish an online quarterly newsletter called Veggie Bites, offering tips, tricks, and lesson plans. Find it at lsuagcenter.com. For the Southern Education Desk, I'm Sue Lincoln.
We'd like to thank our friends at Louisiana Public Broadcasting who produced Louisiana, the state we're in, for sharing that story with us. The Southern Education Desk is a partnership between public radio and television stations across the Gulf South covering education. You can find out more about that operation at our website, twilatv.org.